Welcome to Cooped Up, episode number 7. And this week we're going to talk about John Cooper of John Cooper Works. Yes, he's actually a real person. And we'll also go into the latest news, a lot of electric news in there, and our latest social picks of the week. My name is Nick, and you can find me on YouTube and Instagram as the mini vlog, where I just share my life with two minis. And with me, as usual, this week is Ethan. Ethan, what's up?
Hey, my name's Ethan. You can find me on YouTube and Instagram, Car Creations YT. And once again, minis and also BMW.
Nice. Yeah. And so this week, I'm going to start off with a story, and we're going to talk about JCW, John Cooper Works. I've met a couple mini people over the weekend, and I found out that not all of them know that John Cooper is actually a person. So we're going to talk a little bit about John Cooper for a few minutes, and just about what he did and what he brought to the racing world and the mini world. So for those who don't know, John Cooper and his dad started a race car manufacturing company, essentially, back in the 40s. And they built these really small little cars that used motorcycle engines. And what they pioneered was putting the engine behind the driver. Up until that point, you know, we've always seen the engine in front of the driver, and they decided to put one behind the driver. And it's this little motorcycle engine, 500 cc. And so their first car was the Cooper 500. So they built this car, and it was like a everyman's race car. And it became really popular because it was really good. You know, it was first of its kind, putting the engine, making essentially a mid-engined race car. And so they gained some popularity out of that. Yeah, it's pretty interesting that they were the first to do that. I would have thought it would come much before the 40s and 50s, but that's when they did it. And so you know, they got this new setup. And they're working essentially start working their way up the ranks of the racing leagues. They get up to like Formula 3 with their rear engine, mid engine design, and Formula 2, and then they bring it to Formula 1, and they kind of get laughed at by these other big companies, big teams and competitors, until they see the car perform. And it didn't win its first race, but it performed really well. And the next year, all Formula 1 cars had the engine behind the driver. It took less than a season for them to see that and essentially recognize that it was a good design and copy that design, borrow that design. And so then the Cooper Works company took this also to Indy Car. They brought it to Indy Car after Formula 1. And pretty much the same thing happened. You know, they bring this small little car with this engine behind the driver to this American racing league, which at the time had, you know, gigantic cars with huge engines. And so it really, this car was dwarfed by the Indy cars at the time. And again, they raced. They didn't win, but they did really well. And it made, you know, these teams and race drivers take note. And sure enough, Indy Car, just like Formula 1, now has the engine behind the driver. So yeah, the Coopers are a significant racing family. They're responsible for a lot of the things that we have in today's modern day racing. So they get the success, you know, they become a race. They're known as a racing. It was unclear what they were going to be billed as or termed as, but you know, they essentially build race cars for semi-pro people to get into. They had also met with Alec Izagonis in the past, prior to all this Formula 1 stuff. So they knew of Alec and the Rover Group, which soon became BMC, and these mini cars. And they ended up getting together at some point. And this is where John Cooper took a standard Cooper, which at the time was like 36 horsepower. And he bored out the cylinders just a little bit, not by much, but he extended the stroke length a significant amount and ended up getting 76 horsepower out of the same engine. So he almost nearly doubles the engine horsepower. And it ends up taking the 0 to 60 time down from, I want to say it was like, I couldn't believe it when I read it. It was something where maybe in the 30s, 33 seconds to go from 0 to 60, down to like, 15-ish. So he, again, halved that by doubling the power, which right now still sounds silly, 0 to 60 in, over 10 seconds.
Slow back then.
Yeah, is laughable. But back then, that's a huge improvement. And that's where we see the Mini Cooper S, that came from the BMC Rover Group working with John Cooper and his dad and their company to make these high performance minis. And so they worked together for quite a while. The Paddy Hopkirk Mini was a result of that. The minis start to win rallies and start to win races, and we get these really sporty minis. So yeah, the decades go by, and BMW comes back into the group, comes into the picture, and is at this point looking to purchase the BMW brand off of Rover Group to take it over. And they work with John Cooper and his company to kind of influence the early designs, these prototypes of the minis, and he advises them on some of this, and they eventually work out a licensing deal where BMW Mini now own the rights to use the name John Cooper Works. So it's not just the name of the Mini's high-end performance model lineup. It's actually the name of a guy that is a significant guy in racing history. So, I thought I'd bring that up because, not everybody knew that, he was. I knew that he was a person, and I knew that he'd helped create the Cooper S and, the sporty minis of the time. I had no idea until I did more research on him that he's responsible for mid-engine cars in Formula One and Indy Car.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy to find that out.
That's cool because in that case, Minis or Cooper Heritage started the mid-engine car, but then they also started what was it, front-wheel drive cars?
Front-wheel drive with the transverse engine. They were the first ones to flip that engine around. So yeah, it's Minis cool. Are the Mini and the Cooper family are responsible for a lot of modern day things that are still around: transverse engines and mid-engine cars and sports. So yeah,
that's awesome.
Yep. So the Coopers are still around. The grandson of John Cooper, I think, owns a bike company now. He's a brand ambassador for Mini, naturally, and he was also seen in the Pace Setter promo videos, driving that all electric Pace Setter. So that's him. I think his name is Charlie Cooper, and he's also got a new bike company called Cooper Bikes. So yeah, they're still around. They're still in the racing business. They're still related to Mini. And that's where the JCW, John Cooper Works, name came from, John Cooper.
So do you have a Cooper bike yet?
I don't, but I have looked. They're just kind of getting started, and they got some pretty cool looking things. But I need to get a 0001 Cooper bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Perfect.
So, coincidentally, a little quick side note before we switch over to news and social pics. There are other famous John Coopers out in the world. Unfortunately, one of them is like a mass murder serial killer. So while searching for John Cooper, that one often came up as it's a more recent and recent search. But if you dig hard enough, you can find the John Cooper racing family. So yeah, just a quick, short little story about, so for people that didn't know, John Cooper is his actual person. That's where JCW, John Cooper Works, comes from. Now it's owned by, that name is owned by Mini and BMW.
That's cool.
Yeah. So with that, let's you want to switch over to news and share some news stories with us?
Yeah, sure. So on the note of John Cooper Works, the 2022 JCW officially was revealed. It's kind of funny because I've already done a video on the car and everything, but
you've already seen it. Yeah, it's looked awesome.
But apparently the press article came out yesterday. Just
Yep.
a side note, if anyone hears a random bird in the background, it's because I have a budgie in the basement right now. So
Oh, okay. What kind of birds?
it's I think it's a cockatiel. I thought it
Oh,
was a
cool.
budgie, but I think it's a cockatiel. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Well, we'll keep that in mind if we hear any birds.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, basically it's exactly the same internals as the last JCW. Same engine, same horsepower, same torque. I believe because of emissions in Europe, the torque and horsepower is slightly lower, but everything else is the same.
Okay.
Other than that, biggest differences being we have the new front grille, which I've seen some people compare it to the new grille in the M3 and M, but I don't mind at all. Looks not too bad. And then
That's
also the diffuser is amazing. I
that's an
don't think it's a big together, but
interesting point. I never thought about the big kidney grills. We now have a big JCW grill. Kind of same idea.
yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it looks. I don't mind the kidney grills. I think that without the license plate on the front, they look cool. With the Mini, you obviously have the crash bar that the license plate can fit over. But yeah, that's I never thought about that. But yeah, that rear diffuser that looks pretty awesome.
Yeah, especially on the electric GP.
Yeah, I'm going off of what I've seen on your video, and that looked really cool. So
yeah,
yeah, new 2022. Well, so we should note, because I'm sure you might have gotten some comments on your video too. I've got a lot about my 2022 video. In the US, it's a 2022. In the US market, it's a 2022 model year. I know it's 2021. Over in Europe, this is a 2021 model year. So I get a lot of comments about, me being wrong that this isn't a 2022, but here it is. I'm not sure why we are so far ahead. My best guess was it ties along to the fiscal quarters, because you start the fiscal quarter in the year prior, essentially. So just a note for people before you leave any angry comments. This is a 2022 in the US, at least. Maybe a 2021 elsewhere. This week's episode is brought to you by Automatic Wipers. Do you have automatic wipers on your Mini? Do you not know, like me sometimes? Just peer around your steering wheel and see if there's a little button at the end of your stalk. If so, press that button and your wipers are going to come on automatically every time it's raining. For more information about automatic wipers, just look kind of around that steering wheel, behind the back of it, see that stalk and press that button. See if your wipers come on automatically the next time it rains. We'd like to thank them for sponsoring this week's episode.
All right, so the next piece of news here is a all-electric GP rumor. So we saw around the track a GP under wraps, and it was quite obviously an electric vehicle, being yellow pieces all over it, and then also it lacked a exhaust at the back.
It still has the port for the cutout for the exhaust. So they just kept the same bumper, but there's no pipes.
Yeah, so that's a good point. Yeah. And then also we saw recently the electric pace setter. So between those two things together, and then also they released a marketing video. And if you scroll down to the bottom of these pictures here, you can kind of see they have a table and they have some drawings on it. And it looks like the very last F series car that we will be seeing will probably be a electric GP. Now, I think we won't see much of a horsepower increase or anything. I guess, do they call it horsepower for electric vehicles? I guess so.
There's like a horsepower equivalent.
Yeah. Because BMW doesn't have any, they don't really have any higher like electric motors to use. They have to kind of use the ones that they have from the i8, or not the i8, the i3.
i3, yeah.
So, so they'll probably just use that and then make it light and try to get the 0 to 60 faster and stuff. But I bet it'll just be kind of exactly like what we see for the pace setter. And then that'll be the last F series that we see before they release all the G series coming out soon.
Yeah. Which is weird. It's usually the GP comes at the end of the life cycle,
Mm.
and we already have the GP, so this would just be an electric version. But
Yeah,
I
that's
mean,
interesting.
yeah, it's not the normal release cycle for this, but I would still happily see a electric GP. And I guess I have to start saving up right now.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
I hope they manage to get it faster because currently, I don't remember. I think we talked about it last week, but the pace setter is actually quite slow. I think it's like, I want to say 6.5 to 7 seconds, 0 to 60.
yeah,
So
that's my concern is like the current electric motor offerings in the current electric Mini, based off of that, the same drivetrain that the i3 has, is
yeah,
not super high performance. Could that be changed with software? I don't know. I don't know enough about that motor.
yeah,
Um, if it could have been improved with software or some tweaks, why wouldn't they have done it with the pace setter? Why wouldn't they
yeah,
make that? So I'm hoping that they have another electric drivetrain generation 2 in the future that's a little faster, beefier.
yeah.
I don't know. I guess we'll
Um,
wait and see.
I was reading some articles and they said perhaps it wouldn't actually be called a GP; it'd just be called the electric JCW, which could
Yeah,
also make sense.
I think for me that makes a lot more sense based off the GP comes at the end of the life cycle of that generation.
Yeah,
So, the GP4, let's call it, which would very likely be all electric, wouldn't come until the end of the G series. So
exactly.
this could be them using a leftover, taking out the internals of the GP marketing car and throwing in a JCW test bed to test it out. And this way
Yeah,
they can test it out and not have to show you what the G series looks like. They've got this test mule that instead of crushing it, they can repurpose it.
yeah, exactly.
That's my
I would
hope.
think that. Yeah,
Just because I don't want a GP out so soon again. I need some time to finish paying off one of these before I can think about getting another one. And
yeah,
I hope they stick with the tradition of keeping the GP at the end of the life cycle. But I'd also wouldn't be upset if I saw it earlier.
yeah, yeah. I guess we'll have to wait to see. They said we should be able to see something about it by the end of 2022. So
Yep.
let's hope.
Yeah. Would you get
And
one
then
if they came out?
um, I put a notice into the mini dealership to let me know as soon as ordering starts, just in case.
Yeah,
But
sure.
yeah, I don't know. I really want to. I really did enjoy the electric mini that I drove, but it would have to be faster.
Right.
So
Right.
we'll see.
Yeah. I think I would totally be interested in one. I'm interested in all minis, but I'd have to see some specs on it too. I'm not committed to it to being. It wouldn't replace anything that I have now. Like I would still need the Countryman to go long distance road trips, just because of the charging infrastructure that's
Yeah,
lack thereof. If they would license the Tesla charging network so that we could use the superchargers, this would be no problem. But the fact that it probably won't be, yeah, we just
exactly.
don't have the chargers here. So I'd still get it for a city car for sure, but for long trips or carrying lots of things, it's not going to replace the Countryman. And you
Yeah,
probably would still keep your Clubman for those same reasons.
yeah,
But
exactly. And yeah, and then talking about new infrastructure, um, that brings us to our next news article,
mm-hmm.
which is they say apparently this mini miner, I believe what they call it, which was they used it in the past, is reportedly set to return for the new electric like two-seater that they have coming. Um, and it's supposed to, I think it's being built in partnership with Great Wall Motors in China, I think.
Oh, yeah, the Chinese electric car company. Yep.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be like around the target, like the 2x2 audience. And I think they said that it was going to be like based on the Rocketman concept that we have here. And it's quite small. Like it's
Yeah,
138 inches as opposed to 152.
yeah, that is significantly shorter. So we're bringing back the Minor name, which was the Morris Minor from the early days of Mini, and we are combining that with the Rocketman prototype we had from like 10 years ago now, right? When did that one come out? 2011, yeah, the Rocketman. Yep.
Yeah,
And
that was a
we're
long time
making,
ago.
yeah, I thought it was more recent than that, but yeah, 2011. And we're
Yeah.
making a new potential model to add to the lineup. That's interesting. I wonder, it being built in conjunction with the Great Wall Motor Company, do you think it'll ever be seen outside of China?
Good question. I looked a little bit into just the Chinese car market, and apparently just the Mini Cooper hatch that's sold there, because they have to import it, it actually
Mm-hmm.
costs the same price as a base 3 Series,
Oof.
which, yeah, that's quite high. So I'm sure they're trying to do this so they can try to get into the Chinese market more. Well, obviously,
Yeah.
but it's a good question. Will we see it over in North America or anything like that? I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't think they're super into really tiny cars here because isn't Smart for Two? Aren't they like getting rid of that?
Yeah, that's left the U.S. market. I mean, it still
Yeah.
exists in Europe, but we don't have those anymore here. So, yeah, I don't foresee much of a market for it here either. Unfortunately, I would love
Yeah.
to see it, but I don't think it'll happen here. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm interested to see what it ends up looking like. The new Mini Minor electric car, 2-seater.
Yeah. Exciting. Even if it doesn't come here, still excited to see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll have to go to China and try it out.
Yes, I was just thinking the same thing. We'll have to, when the world's a little less crazy, take a trip to China to try a Morris Mini Minor.
Yep.
It's gonna be hard not to call it a Morris Minor.
Yeah. I go over the news beforehand. I kept saying that. So
Yeah, just said it. Cool. So there's a lot of electric stuff in the news, right? The electric GP, the
yeah.
Morris. Oh man, the Mini Minor, the
See?
yeah, man.
But
We
that's
need, we
good.
need.
That's what they want people to do. They want people to think about the old one.
Yeah, yeah, it's working. Nice. Cool. You want to go into some social picks of the week? I'm
Sure.
excited. I'm excited to share mine.
Go ahead.
All right. Let me switch over to this tab. Did you look at it already? Did you
No,
take a
I
peek
haven't.
at it in the doc? Okay. Prepare yourself for this.
Oh my.
A mini Countryman stretch limo in Mexico. How? Oh man, I've been studying this to make sure it's not a Photoshop. I think it's real. I think it's legit.
Oh,
Yeah. How cool is that?
that's a lot to take in, literally.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
So, do
Opposite
they
of a
like cut a
opposite of
couple
a
in
minor.
together? Yeah.
Yeah.
How do
So
they?
that I've seen them build. I'm assuming this is the same process for building limos as other cars. You take the car, you cut it where you want to cut it, and then
Yeah.
separate the two halves, and then you just build with start with sheet metal, start with some beams to connect the two, and then start with sheet metal, match the same floor pan as the existing cars, so that you can just tack it together, and then you just
Yeah.
work your way out. There's just hand build that in the middle to match the same curvature of the existing door panels and stuff like that. So it's a lot of work, but yeah, this is impressively awesome. I really hope it's real. If there's anybody
Yeah.
that's listening in Mexico, please go find this and let us know.
And it's awesome that it's like a new F series too. That's
Yeah.
normally see it in like an old car. Like
Right.
I think there's a pink R series one that had like
Right.
a hot tub on the back and something. Actually for sale. It's out for sale if anyone wants to get in the States.
Really? Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, that's true. You usually see an older car that's kind of a project car. This is like a brand new Mini that the Countryman, they just cut in half and built a limo out of it. It's insane.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's
What
cool
do-
though. I love it. I would take a ride in that any day.
Yeah. It's so awesome.
Hmm.
I wonder what the 0 to 60 on this is.
Probably horrendous.
I mean, it's an S, right? So it's got to be,
Yeah.
it's got to be around 10 seconds if it can get to 60. But yeah, this is that is my pick of the week. If there's anybody that has more pictures of this limo, please share them with us. I want to see them. I want to see more of this.
Same.
So yeah. That's my pick of the week. What do you got, Ethan?
I went the other way. I went to
much shorter.
Yeah, probably 3 of those put together.
Oh, easily. That's a really nice looking. That's the 177 Rally from Monte Carlo. That's really nice.
Yeah, and someone got a bunch of them, put them together, and yeah, I just couldn't stop looking at that picture. And this guy is all his Instagram is all featuring these cars.
The details on this car's in great shape from the looks of it, and they got all the details.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Wow.
And I was trying to see if it was like, when I first looked at it, I thought it might have been actually taken back in the day, but I know there's modern car.
Oh yeah. There's Is that a modern Supra back there? What is that blue one? No, it's not a Supra.
I thought it was a 911, but the front doesn't look like a 911.
Yeah. And where this must be in Europe? Must be in Europe.
Yeah, they have cars there that I've never seen before.
Yeah. Wow, that's really sharp looking. I love that roof rack too, the spare.
Yeah, that's what I want to do with my roof rack. Put a spare up there and then put a box beside it.
Yeah. Oh, wow. I think the only thing I don't like about this is it's a left-hand drive car as opposed to a right-hand drive.
It's true.
But otherwise, I want it. It's so sharp looking. All three of these cars I want all 3 of them. They're all nice.
Oh yeah. Yeah. One day I want to do a replica like that.
Yep. Money's no object. I'm going to buy all the classics. Give them a home, just like a farm, all classics.
Yeah.
Nice.
Little track they can drive them out on.
Yep. Get a farm with a track and a barn and just take them out. Free range minis. Cool.
Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, that's good. That's it for this week of super short show, but we'll give you a quick preview of where you can find us and what we have coming up on our channels this week. Ethan, where can we find you and what do you have coming up on your channel this week?
All right, so you can find me on Car Creations YT on Instagram, and then on YouTube to search up Car Creations. And this week we have a cool video coming up where a few weeks ago I installed the new 2022 facelifted
infotainment center thing. Yeah,
infotainment system. And this week I'm just going to go through and show all its features, so that should be interesting.
Cool. It's going to be like a user manual, super user manual for the new infotainment system.
Yeah, everything you could possibly want to know.
I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, for me, you can find me on YouTube and Instagram as the Mini Vlog, where I just share my weekly adventures with owning minis. And this week on my channel, I had our first mini meetup of the year. We went to the opening weekend of Watkins Glen racetrack. So a couple of us and the local club got together on a very rainy Sunday and met up for a little bit. And so I'm just going to go over some of the minis that I see there really quick. And then we go out on the track. There's not much video of going out on the track because it's super rainy and you had to stay in your car. But yeah, if you want to see some minis from the area, check in on Sunday so you can see that.
Exciting.
Do the birds and cats get along, or do you keep them separate right now?
Yeah, we try to keep them separated. Although my brother sometimes brings it in and sees what happens.
Oh god.
It's other sides of cages, but it's funny.
Yeah, I can imagine.